is My Journey into Calligraphy, a special lecture by Master Calligrapher Mr. Jamian Doji Chakrashar. For that, Tejal Shah will be chairing the session. Tejal Shah is an internationally renowned contemporary visual artist whose unique practice consistently challenges the legible by occupying liminal spaces between fact, fiction, and poetry. Working across diverse media such as video, photography, performance, installation, and educational workshops, Shah is interested in the intersection of queer feminist theory and non-dual philosophy. Her works have shown widely in museums, galleries, and film festivals around the world. Now may I request our chair, Tejal Shah, to proceed with the session.
So it's a great honor for me to introduce Gen Jamian Dorjila, whose life practice and artworks, as you're about to discover, are exceptionally beautiful, sacred, and technically extremely erudite. Before I launch into introducing him, I would also like to thank Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdol for giving me this opportunity to connect with Genla. As well as I want to express my sincere appreciation for all the staff of Tibet House who has very painstakingly conjured this beautiful 3-day festival for all of us to enjoy. And the staff is consisting mostly of very young people, so Tibetan youth, the new face of the future, as well as all the volunteers, and of course appreciation to the audiences who are here. Without you, nothing is complete. And I do have 5 minutes to introduce Genla, and I'm going to make good use of those 5 minutes. So India and Tibet have shared a very close and significant ties for more than 1,300 years at least. And since 1959, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama came to India as a refugee, the largest Tibetan community in exile has also made its home in India. So this festival provides us a great opportunity to learn more not only about the Tibetan culture, but also what is the shared ground of this friendship between Tibetans and Indians, and the significance that this may have for all of humanity. So I'm not a historian, but still I want to share a few things with you. If I get some facts incorrect, you can correct me in the Q&A section. And so to retrace or track back this ground of friendship between Tibetans and Indians, we have to start with the appearance of Siddhartha Gautama 2,600 years ago in 400 BC. This prince who later came to be known as Buddha Shakyamuni, or simply Buddha, Buddh in Sanskrit being the fully awakened one. So as you're aware that the teachings of the Buddha subsequently traveled to many different parts of the world, including Tibet, where the first transmission of Buddhism took place between 8th and 9th century under the Tibetan king, King Trisong Ditsen, who established Buddhism as the official religion of the state. And King Trisong Ditsen brought many Indian Buddhist scholars to Tibet. Now you may be wondering, why am I going on about this? But I'm just trying to set the backdrop for Gen Jamian Dorjila's work, because all these things play a very significant role in his work. So just before King Trisong Ditsen, during the time of King Songtsen Gampo, the Tibetan alphabet, the creation of the Tibetan alphabet is attributed to Thomni Sambota of the 7th century. And tradition says that Thomni Sambota was sent to India to study the art of writing. And upon his return, he introduced the Tibetan alphabet, which is based on the Indic script of that time. And The printed form is called the Uchen script, and the handwritten cursive form, which is used in everyday writing, is called the Ume script, which is what Dorjila primarily uses in his works. So the Tibetans have, without a doubt, one of the most impressive translation histories of any people in the world. Starting in the 8th century and continuing for 900 years, they translated the entire Indian Buddhist canon, a body of work consisting of more than 4,500 texts and some 73 million words. So we can broadly say that all the teachings of the Buddha can be put into the two categories: the teachings on wisdom, the nature of reality, as well as the teachings on compassion, including the most refined form of compassion, which is grounded on wisdom. So it is very important for us to understand that intention plays a very key role in the teachings of Buddha. And there's not a single sphere of life in the world of Tibetan Buddhists which has not been influenced by these ideas, by such intentions, whether it's art, literature, music, performing arts. Hence, for us to really appreciate the work and practice of Gen Jamyang Dorjila, we have to understand that for him, there is perhaps no difference between art, life, and dharma. We can see that for him, everything converges into these ideals of wisdom and infinite compassion, both through his art and his other engagements, such as he runs a dharma center called the Latsun Dharma Center in South Sikkim, where local dharma students are taught Buddhist texts as well as chanting. So Genla is perhaps the most well-known Tibetan calligrapher, a pioneer in his field, as well as a teacher. His calligraphy is a linguistic dance of Buddhist images and elements, encompassing Buddha's body, speech, and mind. He boldly experiments with a variety of media and styles, and he's constantly evolving. The startling beauty and detail in Jamyangla's work stems from his deep devotion to the teachings of the Buddha and his love for Tibetan language. His work focuses on the Ume style, and as you will see, the brush strokes have a lot of depth and flexibility and a strong sense of confidence. We can know a lot about a person's mind by looking at the lines that they create. So his very unique work has been appreciated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as well as Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who called his work Dharma art. So many of his calligraphies of Buddhist deities serve as meditation tools. They have been exhibited widely internationally and are held in private collections in different parts of the world. In 2010, as this image is going to show, and Genla will speak about it more, he wrote a 165-meter long Tibetan calligraphy scroll consisting of long life prayers for His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, composed by 33 different great Tibetan masters. And for this, he holds the world record for the longest calligraphy scroll ever written. So Jamyang Dorjila studied under great masters such as Geshe Lobsang Tharchen and Professor Samdong Rinpoche. His works are being exhibited in the museum upstairs, and he has been very kind and generous for all the 3 days he's there, and you can request him to do a calligraphy for you. This is extremely generous. So with that, I'm very honored to introduce Jamyang Dorjila. Thank you.
Hello, gitu ya. Oke. Charging dulu lah, gitu ya. Oke. Dish. Ya, oke. Tim deh. Hello, 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 hello. It's okay. Last person, can you raise your hand if you can hear it? Okay, okay, thank you. That's good. Tashlila, everybody. And thank you, Tejal ji, for your very generous introduction of me. First of all, I would like to thank Gisela and the Tibet House for bringing me all the way from Sikkim here to share some of my work and also my experience in the Tibetan calligraphy. It is a story because for me personally also it's a story because it has happened. Even I don't know how it has happened, but it has happened. So therefore it is a story. After, as you know, as per the introduction, I was working with government of Sikkim, I was working with exile government in Dharamsala and all that. And when I reached a retiring age, then I sort of pre-retired. Before the time I got retired, packed up everything, all my past career, whatever it may be. Then I started a new life, a life into the Tibetan calligraphy. Because as you said, I had a very good foundation when I started in class 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, these days in the small class, then you don't get Gishelas to teach you. You know, in the Tibet house you have Gishela, but otherwise in class 1 and 2 you don't get Gishelas to teach. But fortunately, when we were students in Simla school, Tibetan school Simla, when my parents came as a refugee, we had Gishelov Santharji and Haramba Gishelov Santharji, the highest degree, teaching class 1, 2, 3, holding the hand and teaching calligraphy. And of course, Professor Samdur Rinpoche, and then he was not called professor. So therefore, I think the foundation was very, very good. And this foundation, I think, is very, very important for the whole life. And for me, only that foundation, class 1 to 5, is what you are seeing just now here. That's all. In between, of course, in the school, in the colleges, there is not much relation with the calligraphy. Then as a government of Sikkim, Babu, as a joint secretary, going up and down car, nothing to do with calligraphy. Then in Dharamsala, yes, as a director of TIBA, some form of writing in Tibetan, but not like that. And everybody these days writes in Uchen. And there was a time when people used to start talking about saying that it's useless learning Umi. You know, because you can read Pecha Uchen. Uchen is the main thing that you have to learn, you have to computer, but Umi is useless, you know. There are some younger generation started speaking about it. So I used to feel very bad about it. But then what can you do? What can a single person do? So after my retirement, then I decided to do something on the Tibetan calligraphy, and I set myself 4 missions in this calligraphy, normally, which I say. Number 1 mission is to preserve and promote the traditional calligraphy, the Umi style. That is my first mission. And the second is to create a new Buddhist calligraphy art which can have the essential wisdom of mind, body and speech together. And third is to promote the traditional calligraphy into a different format equivalent to Sufa of China and Shodo calligraphy of Japan, whether Tibetan calligraphy can reach there. So that was my third mission. And fourthly, hopefully to inspire the younger generation by doing this and telling them, oh, look, here is something that has got a very good potential, even commercially also, and all that. That was my 4 missions that I set for myself. And now, how do we start? You know, so first, as everybody does it, you ask the Google Baba, you know, where is Tibetan calligraphy in the virtual world? And then I found that there's no Tibetan calligraphy, you know, 10 years back when you look into Tibetan calligraphy. No, there's one or 2 stories about a calligrapher who is a Britisher in London, who was formerly a monk of Rumtek Monastery, who is a very good Thangka painter, and he writes beautiful Uchen, no doubt about it. So he is the one who represented Tibetans everywhere in the international Tibetan calligraphy exhibitions. None of the Tibetans seems to be doing anything on this. And looking back in 1970s, Trungpa Rinpoche used to do calligraphy, and he wrote a book on the art also. But then there was no continuation, and as I say, that Trungpa Rinpoche, and when Rinpoche does it, then they have a divine brush. Not necessarily they have to have a beautiful writing. Anything they do, put the seal, it's a divine thing, it's okay. But for us, we have to perfect. When you have to compete with the best in the Chinese tradition and the Japanese tradition, you really have to work hard. So what to do? Then I was doing extensive research, and in going through the virtual search engines in China and Japan and all that, then I came across a news cutting in China where a person was holding a certificate, and the certificate was in Chinese language. Everything was in Chinese, except there was one line which says 100 world's longest calligraphy scroll, 150 meters, Guinness World Record. So I said, look, here is a Guinness World Record, and now I have to break that record. To come into the limelight, what do? You break the record, and then you come into the limelight. So I decided to break that record. Now what to write? That was the content of it. I don't know what that person wrote in that long one. Supposed to be a long one. Really, later on it proved it was not there. Anyway, so that was my target, and I saw a very interesting thing which perhaps many of you may have not noticed. Till the 14th Dalai Lama, up to 13th Dalai Lama, you don't find all different schools of Buddhism, the masters of all different schools of Buddhism writing long life prayer for His Holiness Dalai Lama. I have not seen it, except in the case of 14th Dalai Lama. 14th Dalai Lama is one. All the schools of Buddhism, including the spiritual masters of Pembu, have composed long life prayer for the 14th Dalai Lama. It's very, very unique. Many people don't notice that. And fortunately, Ami Majin has compiled the compositions of the 35 great masters of Tibet in 2 volumes. And so I said, here, this is the one I wanted. I wanted to write long life prayer of His Holiness, composed by all these on one single paper. So that was my mission, and how to go about it, and the papers and all that, cutting the story short. And finally, I sat in a kind of 6-month of retreat, writing retreat, meeting nobody except my wife cooking for me and myself. Because once you retire, you have no phone, no boss. The happiest moment in life, so you have all the time for yourself. So I started writing, and that was also a revision for me, practicing for me, also doing this writing, and also with a mission to compete with somebody. All that thing was there. And in 6 months, I completed 165 meters. 165 means. Actually, precisely 163 meters something, and then there are 2, how do we say, the brocades applied on both sides, so it became 163 meters, 0.2 meter long, completed the composed prayers, as I said. So once this is done, then I took it to, my friends helped me to make a box to roll in, beautiful box to roll in, and also a cloth applied to make it very strong. It became 52 kilos. So I took the 52 kilos to New York, and then from there started applying to the Guinness World Record, saying that, no, look, I have broken somebody's record. It took some time for me because they had to do a lot of research, and there's so many formalities to complete the formalities. And finally, after a month, then they wrote to me saying that no, there is no such record, 150 meters. There is no such record. And then I wrote, gave back the newspaper cutting saying that here is this record that I wanted to break. So I said, no, we don't issue certificate in Chinese language, which is true. I didn't think about it before. So I think somehow they cooked up something in China that, they always used to saying the longest and the biggest and all that. They did it. So anyway, now what to do? I did this. So they said now the only thing is you have to, if you wish to compete with all the calligraphy scrolls in the world, that includes Quran and Japanese and all that, and if you are successful, then you break somebody's record. So I said, okay. It took another 1 month. And after 1 month, then they broke the news in the Google's news that Jamyang Dorji sets a world record for the longest calligraphy scroll in the world. So that came out in the news, and that's how the world record is set. And of course, they issue 3 certificates, 1 framed and the 2 other certificates. And they say if you want to appear in the television in New York, you can do so, but you have to pay $10,000. So, so I said, thank you very much. I'm quite happy with this certificate. And so now I got this certificate, and now it's a very important certificate for me. But I'm an individual, a single person with no institution support, nobody. So Gary Rinpoche, as everybody knows, said, no, we have to do a function. And there was a small function done in DC where Gary Rinpoche gave that certificate to me, and I received. That's the photo you see. Otherwise, that's how I got it. So anyway, once that, these are the, I used to force Umi. In Umi also we have Churing, Tsutung, Tsumakyuk and Kyuk. So I used to write, Churing of one master, and then the photograph of another master, and then Tsutung, alternatively, like that, and in a big box like this, as you have seen it. So like that. And then the only place I was able to display the entire 165 meter was in upstate in New York, a good place. Otherwise, very difficult to find to display the entire thing also. So that's the. And after that, my mission was partially achieved because then now when you type Tibetan calligraphy, then there are about 30-40 pages on the virtual world everywhere, talking about Tibetan calligraphy, this and that, and all the other medias picked up, and then also in India, Limca World Record picked up also, they also started. So like that it came out in the, somehow now Tibetan calligraphy is out of the darkness, some place where people know, oh, there's a Tibetan calligraphy. But then there was my traditional way of writing, it was nothing to do with art. So once all that is done, now what next? What next? We have to keep on doing it. No, I can't continue breaking my record or something like that. So the next thing that I was thinking is, I wanted to say that when I say Tibetan calligraphy in the beginning, means in India we say Bodhi calligraphy, which is practiced from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. And in Nepal, we call this Sambota, which is practiced from Darjula to Tablejung. And it is practiced in Mongolia. And these days, Baldistan also in Pakistan. So this is a script which can combine all these people together. It's a common script for all of this. This is also a script which has preserved the entire Nalanda knowledge of India, preserved in Tibet. This is a script which we boldly say is from Devanagari script. Although the Indian linguists, language experts, and in the National Museum, I've seen that they don't mention Tibetan script anywhere. They mention about how Indian script went to Burma, Mongolia, and other areas. They don't mention Tibetan script anywhere. Officially, I call this Bodhi script as abandoned child of India. We are still not recognized officially. We're waiting for recognition by Government of India because this has contributed in a great deal, I think, to the philosophy, the knowledge of India that Nalanda used to have. And now here you see another script, Tibetan looking like Tibetan. They in the Tibetan, how to say, experts, they say that there do exist a script before Timisambota. So that means there exists a script which is not based on Devanagari, probably. So I don't know. It's very, very debatable, and personally, I don't believe that. I believe that only after Timisambota, from the Devanagari, everything came. But then somehow some experts say that such scripts do exist. There was an old book. I copied from that book, and just to let you know, there are certain sort of schools of thought. And as you all know, there in Tibetan, we have Uchen, Tuksa, and Umi, three kinds, broadly speaking. Uchen is the one that you see in the computer or the books that you read. Uchen, very popular. Tuksa is the decorative word that normally you use for writing on the envelope or titles of the books and things like that. And Umi is the one that I use, and we believe that Umi is the main sort of the root handwriting of Tibetan style, because our teachers, my teachers used to say, don't learn Uchen and Tuksa, you should learn Umi, because if you are good in Umi, then Uchen and Umi you don't have to learn, automatically it will be good. But if you learn Uchen, and then if you are asked to learn write Umi, you can't write. So Umi, I think, is the root of the Uchen. The first one is the Uchen that you are familiar with, and the second one is the Tuksa, and the third one is the Umi, that the official communication script that I, in my entire 165 meters, I didn't write Uchen or Tuksa, I only wrote Umi. And you will find in all my displays there, I only write Umi. So after that long one, then the next idea is how to now take it to a new avenue. And then the idea of that, as a Buddhist, we, when you meditate, the mind, body, and speech, you have different mind representing a stupa, body representing a tanka or a statue, speech represented by a script. So I said, why can't all these be together in one kind of drawing or whatever? So you have mind, body, and speech all together there. That was one of my idea. And the second one is, as I said also, the Shirabji Parudishima, the Heart Sutra, is a very, very popular Chinese calligraphy. The ancient Chinese calligraphies, they write Heart Sutra with the brush. And today, one of the most expensive Chinese calligraphy written in brush is a Heart Sutra, Shirab 6 feet by 8 feet. It's $45 million. So that's where calligraphy is. And so therefore I wanted to do all this together in one piece. And also, I think, as the teachers tell us all the time, when you meditate, and then first of all you have to sort of visualize a deity in front of you, and that deity finally dissolves into a letter, and that letter again comes and dissolves into you. You become that deity, and finally you dissolve into that letter, and then finally the letter disappears, and that's how you visualize Tongbanyi. That's what teachers tell you. So I said, finally it's the letter. It's the letter. The most important thing is letter. So I said, no, forget about all the dissolving. Let us make a statue of the letter itself. That was my idea, And in Shirab Nyingbu, I think Shirab Nyingbu basically is a text. It is the resolution of a meeting or the minute of the meeting between Chenrezig and the Shariputra in the presence of Buddha. They were discussing Tongbanyi. What is Tongbanyi? And Chenrezig was saying, this is Tongbanyi, Sungme, Swami, like that. They were discussing. And end of the discussion, Buddha puts a seal of approval saying that, okay, this is it, this is it. And so this text we have, So this is a text. It's not there is no statue involved into this. But then I think the teachers, skillfully teaches you, or they skillfully made a statue of the Yumshir of Jeparudishimba with 4 hands. When I saw that statue, I said, why a statue? Because it's a text. So I think you need a statue to skillfully take you to that meditation of the Shunyata. So therefore, then I said, why can't the Shiram Nyingbu be made into a Buddha itself? So you can see my Shiram Nyingbu drawings up there, Heart Sudra made into this. And we call this Shabarambache. The first time when I made a Buddha with a script, then I was not sure whether I can do it or not, because Tibetan tradition sometimes is very conservative, and I might get criticized. And so I showed this to Rinpoche. I said, "Is it okay?" So Rinpoche was very happy. And Rinpoche said, "Call this Dharma art. It's very good." Then later on, I showed my first work to His Holiness Dalai Lama. His Holiness, I didn't tell him the details. He looked at it and he said, it's interesting. So I said, no, His Holiness, this is the script. And then gave him the magnifying glass. And he was so happy. He said, yes. I thought, Mitsandarjiki, I thought Sandars Mitsandarjiki, a person with, how to say it, a person with Pakistan seems to have drawn it. I say it's not drawing his letter. Then His Holiness said. So basically what I'm trying to say is I've got the approval of the 2 great masters, my root guru. So it's okay. So nobody can object to me. So you can see some of these details that I have to Prasna Paramita Buddha, the entire Prasna Paramita Buddha, written with a miniature kalam, I think miniature 0.1 pen kalam with a magnifying glass. And so, once you decide it, then you have hundreds of deities, Buddhist thing. You can do it with Guru Rinpoche, you can do it with, this is Kusum Tu, all the mind, body and speech together. And Dharma, Tara, the prayers of Dharma were written at least 12 times. I think I counted, you can write 12 times Dharma Nisachi prayer in this. And the site designs are Tam. Tam is the seed syllable of Goddess Tara, Dharma Jigyopma. And then you can also do like this. There is no limitation. You can write the long life prayer of His Holiness the Dalai Lama number of times there. I made a tanka of the original work of this and presented to His Holiness on his birthday in Dharamsala. So, and yes, then the computer experts can work on my calligraphy. These are not my work, They can do anything, They can take it, Photoshop it or whatever. So, there's no limitation to imagination. And the third one is in the Umi category, Tsurin Tsutung Tsumachung Chuk. I touch the cube only. If you have noticed, I don't touch the others, because when I say calligraphy with brush, means I can't distort the handwriting. The handwriting has to be there. But in the cube, you have the liberty to, go this way or that way. Artistically, you have liberty in the cube. So therefore, I use the cube for my the calligraphy that can compete with the Chinese Sufa and the Japanese Shodo. Our cube is very, very useful. So I started working on this, and So I was trying to write something, but yeah,
It's a video.
it's a video. Maybe video is not working here. Anyway, I can jump. Okay, it's okay. Now since you have seen me working there, so this is okay. So this is a zam, zama, zam. You can see the strokes, the movement of the strokes, and of course, it's the god of wealth. So who wants money, you can have a print of this. And this is Tamchik. The straight line is Tha, and then this one is Ma, and then you can see Tha and Kigu, Chik. Tamchik is Samaya. Sanga Gitsawani Tamchik is the root of the Vajrayana is Tamchik. It's a very, very precious word which these days people forget about it. That's the main problem. If you stick to Tamchik, everything will be all right. That's what I believe. So therefore, I try to promote this word as much as possible. And of course, this is Naro. So in the cube, you have the liberty to write. Gisela here will agree with me. You can write Naro like this also. You can write Naro like this also. So in the cube, you have freedom of your brush. So this is Norha, god of wealth, the lord of wealth, I think. And these two words, which were spoken by Jigme Phunzo, Khenpo Jigme Phunzo in Settler Monastery when he was hospitalized in China hospital. And then there are 10,000 monks and nuns in the Settler Monastery. So finally, when he was dying, they requested him to say something on the phone so that it can be broadcasted over the Settler Monastery. So finally, Khenpo Jigme Phunzo said these two words: advice, Rangsuk Mashur, Shensim Matuk. These are two words. Rangsuk Mashur means you don't lose your identity. And Shensim Matuk means never hurt other people. So these are two very precious words that Khenpo Jigme Phunzo said, and I like to use this on my calligraphy. And in fact, in Washington D.C., Gary Rinpoche's office, in the ICD's office, he has a big calligraphy, this calligraphy there, and because we have to maintain our identity, retain our identity, at the same time not hurt other people. So in our case, Tibetans these days, we neither maintain our identity and then we tend to hurt other people. So it's just happening the opposite way. So this is a very good word to remind ourselves. And Dolma Nishutaji, the names of 21 Taras. Most of us don't know the names of 21 Taras, including myself. You have to every time recite the prayer to know otherwise. So I wrote the names like that. And it becomes art by itself. The center one is Dolma. And then mandala, I think Western people are very much fond of mandalas. So I wrote a mandala of Om Mani Padme Hum. Outside this is Om, and then there is Mani, Padme Hum, and the center it's Shri, the root mantra of the Mani. And a design formed like this automatically. Some people ask me whether I use some computer apps also, because everything looked almost printed form. So no, it's not. I wrote every letter by hand, and if you use a magnifying glass, you may you may see a lot of faults there, not uniform, but that's. And this is a korwa, korwa, samsara, and Dveja, Shetan, Timu, the three poisons in the samsara. So like that, I mean, one can take your idea limitless to anything once you are in that. And this is a calligraphy that I personally did on the advice of Kung Nargi, Nargi, he was a former bureaucrat of Government of Tibet, very, very learned person. And he advised me saying that the Lungda, the prayer flags that you see everywhere, including over here also, everywhere these days, prayer flags, somehow there was a technical mistake which was somehow made purposely. This is what he feels. And this should be the correct position. That's what he says. Ta, the tiger below, Singi, the snow line up, and then Kung on the other side, and dragon, because dragon lives in the ocean. Yundu Ngomutsonan Kil lives in the ocean, so dragon has to be below. Somehow the dragon these days are up and Singi below. Singi is the national animal of Tibet, and dragon is the national animal of China. So somehow he felt this should be the correct one, and I don't know. So I'm trying to sort of leave it for the experts to think, to see. It will take some years to change it because all the mistakes been made standardized. So Tibetan calligraphy has got so much potential. Like the Chinese and Japanese, they have each word written with good luck or something written in their living rooms. There's a tradition that everywhere you go, you'll find a calligraphy. So I'm saying, why can't we do this? We also have beautiful words. And in fact, we don't have to find. I write people's name. Each of these names are beautiful. Siring is long life, Doji is Vajra, Jamyang is Manjushri. All the names we have are beautiful words. So I like to write people's names. So each of them have their name there. It's his or her own name, but at the same time, there's a beautiful word in each family. So that's the idea. And this was inauguration, my inauguration, the exhibition in Rajgir. This prayer that you must have seen upstairs, I composed for Long Life of His Holiness Dalai Lama, 2 stanzas that His Holiness read twice, and then he wrote his comments on that. This is the prayer you can see in the exhibition upstairs. And these are some of these newspapers and the people watching, VIPs, and then the Mangalam, finally, Sarva Mangalam. Thank you very much. Now we can continue.
So thank you so much, Torjila, for this very beautiful talk, sharing your story with us. So now the floor is open for any questions that any of you may have. Yes, please.
Being non-Tibetan, and I don't know how to write Tibetan, but I'm a painter. So I don't know how to write Tibetan, but I'm a painter. And does it make any sense for me to learn this?
Pardon?
Would it make sense for me to study this, being non-Tibetan and not knowing how to
There are
write
two
Tibetan?
sides of what I have been talking. One is the traditional Tibetan handwriting, and one is the art form. And what you are referring to is the art form, your art form and this art form. Art is art. When I started writing it, the first time I did it in New York, exhibited there, and Richard Gere came all the way from Washington to see my exhibit, good friend of mine, and he said, "Jamil, do you sell this?" So I said, I never thought about it. Should I sell this? I don't know. Because I don't know whether artist is the correct word or not, but as a person who dwells in what you call art, is the expression of what comes into your mind on the paper. And people call this art or whatever you call it, but then it's your own creation. I didn't do this to sell or earn or something like that. I did it because I wanted to do it. Somebody wants to buy it, somebody buys it. So therefore, I believe that art comes spontaneously in you. And if you are a painter, and if you sort of have a liking for Tibetan calligraphy. But when I say Tibetan calligraphy, means you have seen that I don't use any other color except black. That's the beauty of calligraphy, because black is the most beautiful color. If you believe with me. So therefore I use that, and if you like it, you can try. You can try, you never know. But then I insist that you have to learn the traditional Tibetan writing beautifully, since you don't hold a divine brush, you are like me. So for us, we have to learn, so that when a Tibetan looks at it, he said, okay. Because I'm very happy when Gisela looks at the calligraphy and says, beautiful, I want his approval, because he can understand. He is the one who can judge, So if I pass his test, means then I'm okay.
At one time, before these block prints of the texts, the pecha were made,
Block prints.
they were actually, before they were block printed,
Yeah.
and the presses, all these texts were actually handwritten.
Yes.
So I remember picking up some scraps of handwritten text
Yes.
outside Lhasa in Thai Yerpa, because there had been a Maitreya statue full of those texts, which was blown up. So these things were scattered all over, and it was such beautiful writing. Now that was in Uchen. So till when did these texts continue to be written by hand? And secondly, what is the composition of the ink that was used in Tibet? What was it made of? I know lamp black and things like that, but were there any herbal seeds or glues or anything?
I think, first of all, the different regions of Tibet, mostly in the Kham and Amdo region, they write Uchen. In the central Tibet, we write Umi. And then the official language of the government of Tibet then used to be in Ume. It used to be written all with hand. The block prints are for pechas, but when you communicate, the communication language is the Ume. And some people in that regions also write Uchen. As far as ink is concerned, yes, why I'm using this ink is because calligraphy tradition is a very old Chinese tradition, evolved during the Ming dynasties. And in fact, in those days, in the court of China, when somebody applies for the job, and the first thing is that he has to be a good calligrapher. Those days, because they believe that a calligrapher, when you write something, you do a lot of planning, you look at it, and you plan. A lot of planning has to be there before you actually pick up the brush. Once you decide what you are going to write, then when you pick up the brush, then you don't hesitate, you just implement it. Because if you hesitate, then it's spoiled. You just implement it, let it go. Some people call this master stroke, whatever, let it go. So therefore, for an administrator, one has to do a lot of planning in the initial. Once you decide, then you execute. So that must be the idea. So what I'm saying is that there is already an established calligraphy tradition in China, with the kind of paper they use, with the kind of brush they use, with the kind of ink they use. And similarly with the Japanese shodo, they copied from the China later on. But they developed their own kind of calligraphy. So therefore, what I'm doing now is, Tibetan calligraphy as an art was never promoted before. As I said, I'm the beginner. So I don't waste a lot of time in thinking all those things. There's already, I can use the same ink, standard ink, same paper, everything same, except the content will be mine, Tibetan calligraphy. So that's what I do. In ancient times, yes, we make ink with wheat. We burn the wheat, barley. We burn barley, and then we grind. We add a little bit of gur, sugar in it, so that it gives the shining effect, like that. And then that's the ink we use. In Ladakh areas also, people when you burn the lamp, chimney, and then they have a space where this is collected there, and when the collection is like a Pema lotus, it's so thick, then they take out that. And then they grind it, with a little bit of water. So much so that once you put the drop here, and then you blow, it has to go like this, one round. If it goes one round, then it's approved, then you can use this ink. Otherwise, if it is not going, you still have to grind. So those were the ancient traditions. And so now we have ready-made inks available, so I use that. It's carbon. Yes.
Thank you, Jamila. I think one thing which really struck me when you use this word script ummi, when you said that, I just related it with one of my professor was teaching me about Quran, and she said that for the first time when Prophet had a revelation, he said, I am ummi, I am unlettered.
Mm-hmm.
That was the word that was being used by the Prophet. And then it says, Ikra was the word that he came and he said, I am ummi. So is there some relation between, because this is very, I think, but there it meant unlettered. That means a person does not know.
Okay.
But here I think it is used for a script, which is... exactly. So, yeah. So,
U means hat. Uchen means with hat. Me means without hat.
okay.
So when you write things in the Uchen, the first thing is you write the hat. There is a hat.
Yeah.
In the Ume, there is no hat. U in our language means the hat. Honorific word to U. Otherwise it will go. So honorific word is U. Uchen means the one with the hat. This hat. Go. One without hat. And since it is derived from Devanagari, in the Devanagari also you will find the same thing when you write Hindi. Sometimes you write with U. It's a hat. Sometimes you write Krosh or something. Samdor used to say, you write Hindi fast without a hat also. Yeah, without a hat also. It becomes a ume. So this is our interpretation.
So, just one question I wanted to ask Jamyangla. So, can you share a little bit about, I imagine that this practice is quite meditative for you. Do you do it all day? Because it's very detailed work and, requires a lot of concentration. So, just something about the practice of it, when you're doing more detailed works.
Yeah, when my exhibition was inaugurated in Rajgir, His Holiness, after seeing all this, he asked me, how did you find so much time in doing all these details? So I said, normally all the Tibetans in the morning, they spend 1 or 2 hours reciting prayers and all that. So I told His Holiness, normally everybody recites prayer. His Holiness, I write prayer in the morning. And so every day I write. And I keep it, I didn't bring it here, it's up there. I keep a thick book where every day I write, continue to write the prayers there. And sometimes 1 page, sometimes 1 line, sometimes 2 pages. And whenever I get time in the airport also, you have to wait 4 hours, then you sit in a corner or you keep writing, So this way, it's a kind of form of meditation. You are concentrating there. And secondly, your practice is continuous. Every day you practice it. And every day it improves, So the Tibetan students who learn Tibetan language here, they will know, you must have heard the word jang, sabada by the janga jang, there's a word sa on the top. So you have to grind the word so much that the sa disappears, then you become chang. Pai the chang a chang, you know. And initially when you drive a car, you learn to drive a car, then you have to concentrate so many there, you know, press this, you know. This is the initial stage. And after some you become chang, then you just drive singing, you know, you don't think where the leg is going, like it happens spontaneously. So it's like this, you know, in the calligraphy also, once you practice so much, and then it comes, you know, sometimes I write 200 names also in 2 days, or 100 names, or 500 names, and each of these are different. And after writing each name, I have an excitement, how beautiful it looks, you know. And I don't know how beautiful it happened. It happens. Now, if you ask me to do a similar thing, I can't do it again. It doesn't happen. And sometimes, you know, I sit to create a work. It is there. Somehow it doesn't happen. Then when it's not happening, or there's spelling mistakes happening, then I leave it for another 2 days. I don't touch it. Right? I let it leave it. And then when you begin, then you are fresh. Then it happens. So it's a very, I think, creative people are very moody, I think. I think sometimes the mood also affects. That's the and normally I work before lunch, not afternoon, because there's a, you know, sometimes what happens is that because your mind goes little here and there, and there's a tendency to make a small mistake, spelling mistake, and. Unlike the Thanga painters, when you paint the Thanga, if there's a small mistake with this color here and there, they can make up and still go ahead with it. In my case, I can't go ahead. After doing everything, if there is one spelling mistake, then I have to throw it away. It doesn't work. So therefore, I have to be very, very careful. And I think, for me personally, I think this is a very good meditation. Every time I sit down, I'm just meditating, thinking nothing except this. Unfortunately, because I have no family worries. All my children are grown up, they're doing well. And only me and my wife, by the grace of Jawar Machine, we are happy, we are healthy. And government of Sikkim is giving me a pension. And I've got a beautiful house to stay. No worry. So when you have no worry, then you can concentrate on the work, perhaps, I think. So when you retire, I think you should be an artist.
So I think that's a very good note to close on, with some retirement plan. If not while you are not retired, then at least when you are after. So thank you so very much, Jamyangla, for sharing your work with us. And please enjoy the exhibition upstairs. It's very nice to see the works in person and to see Genla actually working. The process is really everything, at least for me as an artist. The process is very important, not just what you get in the end. So thank you, everybody, and hope to see you here tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gela and Tejullah, for the wonderful session. May I now request Professor Ravindran Ji, co-founder of Goodness App, to honor our speaker and chair with a khata and a souvenir. Thank you, Professor Raviji. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And tomorrow, the first session will be at 11 a.m. The theme is Healing Attention Deficit Disorder in Today's Youth, Perspective of Western Psychology and Buddhist Psychology. I request everyone to be on time, and the session, all the sessions will be at Tibet House itself. Thank you.